Hi, Jim. How are you?
I'm great.
That's so good. First off, I just want to say congratulations on the film. I'm so glad that it's finally coming out in Australia and everyone's going to be able to see it. It's really, really great.
Thank you so much. Yeah, I'm thrilled.
So I was just going to ask you about Thunder Road and the use of the song itself. So I know that you said it was a really important song to your mother when you were growing up, and I know that you struggled to get the rights. Was there ever a point that you were willing to change it, or were you determined to keep the song as part of the film?
For the short film, I used the song, and there was talk about using a karaoke version of the song or not the original, and I was like, well, no, he'd probably play the original. Like, I don't know. And then we were just talking about the legal ramifications of it, and I just got so fed up with it. I was like, all right, I'm just going to do it. Like, what's the worst going to happen? It's like, yeah, who knows? I'm not going to make $1 off of this movie. I'm going to sell my wedding rings to finance the short. Why don't I just do it? And then we did it, and then it was in the movie. It's one shot. You just know cutting it out. And I was kind of handcuffed to it. And then we submitted it to Sundance, not knowing anybody, and it got in. And then I was like, well, we might not be able to put it online now. And then we won Sundance, and I was like, now we're really never going to be able to put this thing online. And then I spent 2 or 3 months reaching out through Hollywood connections to try and get in touch with Bruce. He was on tour at the time. Sony wasn't giving us any help at all. Like the music label was just telling us no. He's never licensed that song to anybody before. So we knew it was this like uphill battle. And then I wrote this open letter to the guy. I said, hey, I'm this filmmaker. And then a bunch of people shared it on Facebook. And within 24 hours, I got an email from his team saying, hey, you could put the film online on Vimeo. Bruce has seen the short film. Put it on Vimeo, give us $1,000, take down the open letter. And so I did, and then it's been online ever since. And then with the feature, we shot it both ways. We shot it with the song as it appears in the short film, and then we shot it without the song. And then the performance was just so much better in the second half. I had been doing it all day, and we ended up using the last take, which doesn't have the song in it. And then I was like, well, I don't know if we're going to have the song in the movie. And then my producers were like, it would be so much easier if we didn't have the song in it. We're not going to have to fucking bother Bruce Springsteen again. And so very quickly it became the Thunder Road movie without the song in it. And it's fine. He's forced to kind of comically describe the cultural significance of the song while trying to deliver this eulogy, and it was funny. And I think a lot of the fans who had seen, he couldn't get the rights. Oh my God, what is this going to be like? And so it was kind of like an inside joke for everybody. And you can still see it with the song. It's still on Vimeo. You can watch it if you want to. But I just felt like it was going to be too front-loaded with fulfillment for the audience. It has to be a nosedive. And then the real fulfilling thing is the end of the film, the ballet, and we get to use Skinny Love. And then it all works out. A couple of weeks ago, I got an Instagram message from Patty Scialfa, his significant other, and they said that they had watched the feature in their living room as a family and loved it. And she just reached out to say how much she loved it. It's great. It's unbelievable. Now he's just a pen pal.
That's so brilliant, and it actually really goes into what I was going to ask you next, because I've seen so much acclaim for this film everywhere, and it's 100% deserved. So I was going to ask if there was anyone that you had seen give you praise, or any particular review from someone that you had read and you were just like, oh my goodness, this person that I've respected for so long loves my work. Was there any point where you were just completely starstruck by someone loving your film?
Rian Johnson was pretty cool. That was pretty neat. I mean, to have the Star Wars dude reach out and share it on Twitter was really cool. A bunch of people. I mean, 1,000 people. Bruce liking it was kind of everything. I felt like I could die happy with that. That was good. But no, it's a really weird thing. I still feel like not many people have seen the movie, unfortunately. I'd kill to hear what Chris Lilly thinks of it. I'd kill to hear what Steve Coogan or Armando Iannucci or Mike Judge think of it. But it still isn't really well seen in the United States. It had a decent release, and it's gotten this kind of cult followership, which is great. I'm sure they'll see it eventually, but they're busy people. So I don't know. I think Bruce seeing it was pretty big. I made the whole thing kind of for him, hoping that he wouldn't hate it.
Yeah, I did actually see Ryan's praise on Twitter too, and I know that you're quite vocal on Twitter. I've followed you for a while, and your advice for aspiring filmmakers is really touching, actually. Is there any one piece of advice that you just drill down on constantly and say, you need to remember this if you want to make it? Because you're pretty much a self-made success, and it's brilliant to have seen you go from financing your own short film to getting all of this acclaim for your feature.
Yeah, I mean, I was a nobody for a really long time, and I was able to work on other films and work with filmmakers who were directors like Danny Madden and Trey Schultz and kind of see how their movies worked and just kind of broke down those inadequacies that I had, that you have to have some sort of magical ability to make movies. I mean, I always come back to the do-it-yourself catchphrase of like, the cavalry isn't coming, the Mark Duplassism. But it's true. It's like we keep imagining that there's this entity that is Hollywood that's going to come along and help you out, and it's imaginary, and you just kind of have to do it yourself. And the best advice that I always come back to is just like, imagine that nobody's going to help you, and you're just going to have to do everything. And as soon as you start doing everything, people go, oh man, this person's doing everything, let's help them out. And it just works itself out. There's that good Zen expression, leap and the net will appear. And it usually does.
Yeah. Was there any point that you felt like discouraged when you were making the film? Or like you said that still not a lot of people have seen it. Is it still something that you worry about, or something that can get you down occasionally?
Discouragement every fucking day, every minute of every day. The industry is based on discouraging you to prevent people from being able to do it themselves, because if you can make your own movie, you are no longer the industry's subordinate, you are their competition. So like at every possible step of the way, we were discouraged from doing something. I was personally discouraged from doing the thing. I spent years imagining that I was a terrible filmmaker and I wasn't going to make anything of myself and I should pursue something else. Had I not had these ancillary jobs in the film industry to keep my rent paid and my boat afloat, I think that I would have quit years ago. There is just endless discouragement in the film industry. It's this bizarre club that people, this imaginary club that we can all see in our mind's eye. And it's at the top of this hill and you're not a member of the club. And everybody's fighting to get this, they're fighting that discouragement to trying to be taken seriously. I guess that's how it is in every industry. But in the film industry, it's really damning, and it can usually prevent people from actually making anything. They feel like they're not a real artist. I wasn't a real artist for a long time. I was a producer. I was the practical one. I had the spreadsheets and the schedules and the budgets and stuff like that. I never had a sketchbook. And I thought that discouraged me from being an artist, or disqualified me. And I realized all that shit's imaginary and in your mind and bullshit, and you just have to work hard. And if you just keep working hard and you're persistent and you challenge yourself, anybody can be anything.
Yeah, and I do think that's really inspiring, and I think it's great that not only have you continued to believe in yourself, but you worked on this project so much yourself. Like, you're pulling triple duty here. Like, you wrote the screenplay. I heard that you had a pretty unique experience with doing that.
Yeah, so I wrote the short film in my car on the drive to work, and it was just me doing it out loud. It's a monologue, so that was easy, and I was acting out the thing, and I had the car stereo, and I was able to play Thunder Road and practice the monologue 1,000 times over on my drives to and from work. And that worked out for me. I would record the best improv. I would come up with something and then, oh, that's good. And then I record that in my voice memo app on my phone. And then to write the feature, it was the same thing. I just sat in my buddy's basement and put on the Nebraska album by Bruce Springsteen and just hung out and acted it out by myself. And it was just me on my feet talking every scene out loud and making it what it was. So it was just kind of workshopping each scene as it comes out of human vocal cords, and not like me sitting with a screenplay software open, writing down how I'm imagining characters speak. And I found that to be incredibly freeing, and I've written almost everything since like that, of just talking it out and finding the things that are funny and finding the things that are heartbreaking.
Yeah, and I think that definitely lends to the authenticity of the film as well. Like I said in my own review, it felt like you had lived through these things yourself, which obviously, you said that this film is what your life would have been in another life. But it feels really authentic, and I think that the way that you've written the screenplay definitely shows that. Was there any aspect of the film that you found most challenging? Did you find directing harder than it was, being behind the camera? I know that you would say, okay, we're going to do this today, and then you realize, I have to do this today.
Yeah.
Was there any aspect of making the film that you found more difficult than anything else?
I think I had kind of resolved to the idea that this movie was going to kill me and that I would be okay with that. Like, as long as, like, and I'm saying that out loud and realizing that I meant it. I've never said that before, but that's true. This was like a self-sacrificed movie of, like, I'm going to put everything that I have into this film, emotionally, physically, and if I die before I'm able to make my next one, I'll be happy. And I think I, like, told everybody that, like, oh, I'm safe and I'm fine and this will be all right. But months after shooting it, I had, like, a knee brace. I couldn't lift anything above my left shoulder. Like, I cut my artery open on my left arm when I broke the window. And still, I was like, oh, it's fine. No, I'm fine. It's totally fine. And, like, super glued it shut on the car ride to the next set. Like, I felt like everything was a challenge. That was the point of the movie, is, like, to just make something impressive and to do each scene in these long takes and have it be really difficult to perform. But day one, we shot the funeral scene and we shot it 18 times. And the last take is the one that we used for the film. And I'm just dead. I'm like, by the end of it, by halfway through the day, I pulled Natalie, my producer, aside and said, I can't do it anymore. I don't know if I literally can't cry. Like, the fluid that's supposed to come out of my eyes isn't coming. I don't know what I'm supposed to do. And then it was like, we'll make it work. And I just kept thinking of awful stuff. I, like, had pictures of Prince Harry and Prince William at Princess Diana's funeral printed out, and, like, had those to look at. And I mean, every step of the way was murder, because the movie was supposed to kill me.
Yeah, trust me, it had a pretty similar effect on me too. I was a wreck by the end of it, so bravo to you. The film kind of touches on the mental health of police officers especially. Did you do any research about police officers and their mental health before you started really thinking about your character?
Yeah, so I did ride-alongs with the cops in Austin for a couple of times, and they were nice enough to let me sit shotgun while they were doing all this crazy stuff. And that kind of helped to, at least, if not inform the movie, it did in several dialogue pieces, but just kind of confirm what these lifestyles are like. We're riding along and we're giving out fake badges to these kids in the projects, and they're, like, loving it and pretending to be cops and playing, like, good guys versus bad guys. And then we get in the car and the officer is, like, all smiles. And then the first thing on the radio we hear is this guy in a wheelchair has, like, pushed himself up onto the on-ramp of the highway and is trying to jump off. And so we have to, like, race over to the highway to stop this suicide. And it was, like, just that kind of cognitive dissonance inside of the brain of jumping from calm to insanity. It's like, okay, cool, I got that right. And, like, many moments in the movie, it's him, like, going to bed and then jumping fences, and, like, it's just kind of throwing this guy into the melee several times over. When it comes to mental health, that's kind of a shock to me. I knew we were going to show somebody having a mental breakdown, kind of, and I knew that was what the movie was going to be. But I don't think the guy has mental health issues. Like, I don't think he's on the spectrum. I think he's just, like, a dude who's grieving. And so we got a lot of that with American audiences. They were like, this isn't a comedy. This is a movie about a guy having a mental breakdown, and he's, bipolar or any of these other diseases that people have personal connections to. But I never saw it as a mental illness. I saw him as this guy who lost his mom. And, like, that's bad enough. Yeah. That'll drive you crazy just as much.
Yeah, 100%. From my perspective, the film's comedic aspects do play a little bit stronger at times. Like, you watching this guy just struggle to get through, but there's a lightheartedness to it, because, you still want to see him sort everything out and be happy, because he definitely deserves it.
Yeah.
So I know you were really involved with your distribution of your film. It was self-distributed, and you got quite a bit of a following in France, which was awesome. Was there any overseas market that you found the most difficult to get your film shopped into? I mean, I know the release over here was quite late. Was that a result of not being able to find a distributor that would help you out, or someone that wanted to take control over the release more than you wanted them to?
No, we just never got any real offers from, like, a lot of the offers we got at film festivals like Cannes or South by Southwest were for these global deals that wouldn't pay back the financiers. It was like for $100,000 globally for 10 years. And we're like, well, that sounds crazy to me, because Amazon is offering us the same amount just to have it on their platform for streaming in the United States and Canada and for 2 years. I was like, well, that sounds crazy. That's the best deal we can get. It sounds like we have to do it ourselves. But no, I mean, to answer your question, I mean, Germany, like we screened in the Munich Film Festival, and they hated it. They thought they said you should take the comedy out. They had no sense of humor for this guy. They didn't find that character funny at all, and they were like, "How dare you put comedy into this movie?"
Wow, that's actually really interesting.
Yeah, that was kind of an eye-opening endeavor for us too. But no, the French love it. The French, I mean, I think they have this history of loving auteur filmmakers. You know, the French auteurs, the new wave filmmakers. And so when I was like writing and acting and directing, I kind of fall into that camp accidentally. But then also it kind of hits those problems in French cinema right now where movies are either strictly comedies or they're strictly dramas. And our movie does both at the same time. And so, like, a lot of French audiences were like, this is a breath of fresh air. And so that was awesome. The French supported it in ways that I couldn't believe. Like, we opened in 130 cinemas across the country. Like 12 theaters in France or in Paris, which is crazy. We doubled the budget in French ticket sales alone in the first 2 weeks. And it was in theaters for like 7 or something like that. We were very, very lucky. No, we've just been lucky the whole time. Like, just meeting partners, fucking Rialto. Like, everybody's been super cool. Anybody with a sense of humor that, like, understands that this is something that makes people laugh and makes people cry. It's like, it doesn't necessarily have to have a star in it. If the movie's potent enough, if the pharmaceuticals are potent enough, they still work.
Yeah, of course. I know that especially in Australia, a lot of audiences have heard about it through word of mouth. So I'm hoping that it extends a little bit now that it's finally open over here. Because it was floating around on Australian Twitter for quite a while, but it was still one of those films that no one had really had a chance to see just yet. So I'm really hoping that you have a similar success over here. And I actually did want to talk to you about the digital movement as well, because there's been a lot of talk about how home entertainment is changing. You know, it would be easy to just put it on a streaming service, but I think the cinema experience is something that we need to preserve quite a bit as well. And I know that you've worked for online web series before. Do you think that your relationship with sharing content online has changed your perspective of how films should be presented? Do you think that if you had put it straight to streaming, you may have had a different response?
I don't know. So I watch a lot of my movies streaming, and I watch some movies that I think are worthwhile to see in the cinema. Like I saw Roma in the cinema, I saw Suspiria in the cinema. But I don't know. I think this movie particularly ends with a dude who is sitting in a theater watching something on the stage and laughing and crying at the same time. And usually audience members in watching the film, if they make it through, are having that exact same experience watching somebody else. And to do that in a cinema is a really being surrounded by other people with this character, watching this character cry in a theater is an incredibly unique mirror that is a really cool experience that you can only get watching it with a crowd. So yeah, I think arguably this movie is best screened in a cinema, and I don't say that often. I don't say that about many movies. I know there are some movies that we're making right now that I'm like, I would love for this to be, it's a digital movie, it's about data, it should be on a streaming platform. But I have a movie that I'm trying to make in 3D about a love letter to film and cinema. And so, of course, that one I want to have a theatrical release. It really depends on the film.
Yeah, do you want to tell us a bit about what you've got coming up next?
Yeah, so I just shot, and I wrote, directed, and starred in my first studio movie. We shot that in Utah. It's called The Werewolf, which is pretty cool. And then, what can I tell you about that? Yeah, shit. It'll be in the cinemas. It'll be a big boy movie, and that's crazy. And then the next one that I'm doing, I'm running a crowd equity campaign on the 28th and 29th of this month. Kind of like a Kickstarter campaign, except the backers own percentage of the film. And so they'll be able to collect on it in perpetuity, like an investment, which is really cool. And so we're trying that out, and that's going to be this movie about data. And it's like a horror, thriller, sexy movie, which is really kind of out of my wheelhouse, but still a really interesting, worthwhile, crazy film.
Yeah.
And then the big one, the one that's kind of more in line with the emotions of Thunder Road is another father-daughter story about movies and how they can be life-affirming. And that's a kids' adventure film that I want to make soon.
Wonderful. And just quickly while I've got you, is there anything out at the moment or one film recommendation that you could give my audiences? Something that you think needs to be seen by absolutely everyone that you've seen recently?
Yeah, Krisha came out 2 years ago. That's another one that the same emotions that Thunder Road hits, and it's like a comedy drama, but they shot it for $30,000 in an American backyard, and A24 put it out. It's like this really small movie, but has all these big feelings in the same way that Thunder Road does. I always suggest that to everybody.
Thank you so much for your time. Good luck for the film. I'm hoping it does well over here, but you probably don't need that luck because the film speaks for itself.
Oh, thank you. You're too kind. You're too kind. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you.
Cool. Bye now.